It appears like that we have had another mass shooting, and it appears like that maybe the President of the United States is finally getting on this in regards to the pandemic. This has turned into a pandemic, something similar to COVID, that's been brewing and brewing and brewing, getting worse and worse and worse by the day. And I think the president says, in addition to just this year alone, of the mass shootings that has been reported nationally, there's been like 700 other events that was gun related around either crime or suicides or some sort of other event. This is just the 1st of April. This is way out of hand. Listen to this, please.
Constitutional Second Amendment rights, which Biden refuted. Constitutional Second Amendment rights, which Biden refuted.
Nothing I'm about to recommend in any way impinges on the Second Amendment.
The president stopped short of.
Got this video. You definitely do not want to break up this fight. 2 gators were caught on camera wrestling in somebody's backyard. This was in Lakewood Ranch, Florida.
Critically important. A background check is a wonderful historical view. An extreme risk protection order will tell you, is someone in crisis right now? And we know that that law saves lives, especially suicides. So passing that, supporting that at a federal level, and involving states to do that.
Sorry about
in their own
that.
States in a
wrong
proven
button
and model way is the way forward. Safe storage, that should be a no-brainer. Everyone who has a gun should have the ability and the responsibility to keep them safely stored when not in use and separated from the ammunition. Other things like restrictions on high-capacity magazines or assault-style weapons, that's going to be a much harder challenge for our country. But I think focusing on things that have nothing to do with the Second Amendment, background checks, extreme risk protection orders, and safe storage, that's the way to go.
I want to show our viewers some photographs. These are from April 2013, almost exactly 8 years ago. It's then President Obama and Vice President Biden comforting you after announcing efforts to expand background checks after it had failed in the Senate. There is an opportunity now. Senator Pat Toomey, Republican of Pennsylvania, who has previously been a strong gun supporter, but he bonded with Joe Manchin of West Virginia, also a big gun guy, to try to close the so-called gun show loophole. If you are a commercial dealer at a gun show, you have to do background checks. But if you're a private dealer, you do not. Toomey says that he thinks they have 60 votes for it right now, but he's worried about a package coming into the Senate that will take down the opportunity to get the gun show loophole closed. What strategy do you think should the Democrats in the Senate take?
I think that the Democrats should continue talking because there is a common platform here that we can all agree on. A lot of it's in the details of the definitions, so that it's very clear what's covered within the background check, what's not, that it doesn't create a gun registry, which a lot of people have concerns about, that the passage between direct family members could be included, but remote family members, that's kind of like selling it to a stranger. So those private sales need more regulation. I think that there is a way forward, but it's going to take a little bit more time to get there.
Nicole Hockley, thank you so much. And as I said, we always think about you and your son all the time. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Jake.
Only CNN is in Myanmar, where the killing of innocent people is becoming a daily occurrence by the government after the military coup there. What the military wants you to see and what is really going on. We're going to bring it to you first on The Lead.
Sometimes once more violence has erupted. It seems like all over the planet. From the beginning phases of 2019 or 2018 leading into 2019 of the disruptions over in China, where it's believed where the coronavirus started, from all kinds of other misguided approaches that are in the wrong direction of peace and utopia. it's actually going in a direction towards war and destruction. Death, carnage, carnal damage, collateral damage. All these are the beginning phases of the sorrows that the Bible talks about. But once it exceeds to a certain level that we basically hit the threshold of the point of no return, that's whenever we have to worry about the Almighty God himself coming down and destroying us all. In other words, if we don't have enough sense to take care of our own problems down here up onto the earth pertaining to the innocent and the suffering and the despair, that's whenever God will intervene and he'll basically destroy us all. He'll do the exact same thing like he done during Sodom and Gomorrah and other cultures, other generations of people, and he'll do the exact same thing like he done during the era of Noah. Whenever society gets to the point that society can no longer persevere itself in protecting itself in the way that it's supposed to be protected, that's whenever the Almighty steps in and basically lights out for everybody. You know, me as a messenger, I continue to put out message after message after message in regards to this. I get absolutely zero response from any of my brothers and sisters in the Lord. I for darn sure get any response from the people that's supposed to be in charge of law enforcement towards protecting people's lives. And it's just almost as senseless as me walking out and talking to a tree. But yet, no, I'm still making videos. I'm still putting out data. I'm still trying to warn the people before it happens of what's going to happen. Not out of hate, but out of gratitude, out of love. And if the people, by and large, isn't smart enough to identify that there's a limit towards how far God will go in pain and suffering, you better look again, because God has his limitations too as well. In other words, once it becomes so intolerable that society has become doomed, then society will become doomed. Once more, that doomsday clock that keeps ticking, it keeps getting a little closer and a little closer towards the 12 o'clock hour, the midnight hour. Sad. We're in a sad state of affairs right now in just about every level that you can think of. And it's not just here in America, but it's throughout the planet.
Take the vaccine when it's your turn.
Vaccines, weapons against a pandemic.
If you don't get vaccinated, you have zero protection.
But why do people fear that?
Misinformation being spread around the neighborhood is taking its toll.
It's a beautiful document that's completely full of lies.
Join Dr. Sanjay Gupta on a journey to find the answer.
A beautiful document that's completely full of lies. You see, whenever you have these type of distrust issues, and it doesn't matter if it's the United States government or the China government or any other government, whenever you have this type of distrustful issues, you're going to have groups of people that are going to rise up in all due sincerity, in most cases, thinking that they're doing the right thing, kind of like the suicide vest bombers over in the Middle East, that are very, very sincere in what they believe. But you're going to have a group of people that's going to rise up because they do not trust the people above them, and the people that are trying to help them, they don't trust them. It's a trust issue.
Where is the anti-vaccine information coming from?
CNN special report, The Truth About Vaccines, Saturday on CNN.
Across Africa, businesses are what?
Worldly today, an exclusive look at Myanmar. where the ruthless killings continue and the military cracks down on pro-democracy protesters. Myanmar is a country of about 55 million people in Southeast Asia. It borders Thailand, Laos, China, India, and Bangladesh. The country gained independence in 1948, but it's lived under military rule for much of that time. Only for the last decade did Myanmar enjoy any civilian rule, any taste of democracy, but that all ended 2 months ago when the military, one of the largest militaries in all of Asia, reasserted itself and took over in a violent coup. And CNN's Clarissa Ward and her team were the first outside journalists allowed into the country since the coup, and they filed this report. Clarissa, tell us, what are we going to see?
That's right, Jake. Well, according to one monitoring group that's closely following developments in Myanmar, 614 people have been killed in the last 2 months, including dozens of children. Nearly 3,000 people have been detained. One UN official has warned of a bloodbath or even a civil war if something isn't done to contain the situation in Myanmar. We traveled there to confront the military about its ruthless purge. And on the ground, we witnessed some extraordinary acts of courage. By day, the junta continues its brutal crackdown, killing pro-democracy protesters who refuse to submit to military rule. At night, the raids begin as soldiers...
Now, what you're seeing right now is escalating like a cancer. And it's spreading into places like Brazil, Honduras, Mexico, even over in some places in Russia has had a strong uprising. Places in China, places in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran. These are all areas of disturbances that instead of them getting better, they're getting worse. And it's just a matter of time if we continue on the onslaught of what we're on here in America to the point that we're going to see similar type actions here in America on our streets. You see, I'm not quite old enough to remember the civil rights movement bloodshed, but I am old enough to remember how it affected everybody else around me. Even though I didn't know for sure what was going on in the southern states with the uprising, I knew that something had to be wrong other than just the Vietnam War towards what was happening and during the time that it was happening. And I'm just putting out all kinds of warnings and all kinds of different advisories that if we don't watch our next step of destitute, of people being desperate, could actually lead into something like you're witnessing right now over in this particular area. And it's so sad whenever people cannot come together and living together and conforming together and working together, because united, we can get almost anything done. But divided, we're not going to get nothing done other than bring that much more bloodshed and horror and torment into each other's lives. It's danger everywhere. And this danger has exploded throughout the world. And the reason why is that I keep telling my viewers, not necessarily my supporters, because I ain't seen nobody stop here and offer any support to the Windmill Ministries, but to my viewers, I keep telling them, this is biblical Bible prophecy coming true as it speaks of in the book of Revelations of John the Revelator, that predicted that in the last days, Satan would rise up. The evil, dark, majestic forces will rise up because they know that they have failed in this competition or in this whatever you want to call it, that began thousands of years ago. And because they know that their time is short, they're rising up in great wrath. They're it's kind of like, as we know it, somebody going out with a big bang. Okay? It's the same way with the with the evil demonic spirits. They know that they're going out. They know that eventually their powers and their influences will come to naught. They know this. They know this just like they know their own selves. They know this just like they know the Lord Jesus Christ. They know this just like they know lots of other stuff. They know it. And the reason why that they're acting out this way is because they're wanting to go out in a big bang. They're still shaking their fist basically in the face of God, saying, we dare you, we dare you, we dare you to bring retribution down upon the society like you have in other cultures and in other generations. Daring God, because they have confused society and deceived them so badly that they're thinking that if God was to come down right now and bring his wrath, that the majority of people would blame God rather than blame Satan. And to some degree, they're probably right. A vast majority of people would be blaming God for the things that they should be blaming Satan for. Satan has got society deceived right now. That's the era that we're living in 2021, leading into all this bloodshed, all this violence. Satan has misled society, and society has bought it hook, line, and sinker. And because of it, if God was to bring down severe retribution from the heavens, I guarantee you they would blame God, and they wouldn't blame themselves, and they wouldn't blame the person that has bestowed them into doing this type of ungodliness pertaining to Lucifer himself, Satan. So as we watch this violence continue to get worse and worse and worse in other countries, keep in mind, this could very well be our next level or our next step here in America. I'm not predicting this, okay? I don't even want to contemplate this towards it being real or truthful. But you have to look at realization in a real form. And whenever you have as many people that has been hurt, burnt, abused, used by whatever reason, regardless whether it was COVID, regardless whether it was bad cops, regardless whether it was a corrupt government, regardless of whatever reason, whenever you have this many people that is lashing out, you have a very, very dangerous, perilous situation. And instead of it escalating towards going forward in the form of peace and utopia, it's actually going just the opposite direction.
Round up activists and drag away the dead. Their bodies evidence of the military's shoot-to-kill tactics. 2 months after overthrowing Myanmar's democratic...
In other words, they're not using rubber bullets. They're not using water cannons. They're not using some of the conventional tactics that you've seen some of our governments use because of these type of riots. They're just going right down to the core and basically killing their own citizens. Killing their own citizens. They're massacring their own citizens on the streets like if they was a bunch of dogs. Now this is just about as unhumane and as I don't even have words to explain a government that would be willing to do this. But I guess once it reaches the level of the point of no return, I guess they feel like damned if they do and damned if they don't, that if they remain doing what they're doing, they're going to be overthrown. And if they don't do what they're doing, they're going to be overthrown. So either way, they probably look at this situation towards them being doomed on both sides of the fence. And this is where it really takes top-notch mitigators of people that's coming and talking to people and trying to find some sort of a reasonable, neutral understanding that they can put down their arms and try to work things out in a more civilized manner than to do it the way that they're doing it. You got to have some sort of diplomatic approach in a situation like this, and it doesn't matter once more if it's this place or if it's China, or if it's Russia, or if it's people in Africa or India or wherever, you got to have a diplomatic approach in how that you handle situations like this. If not, the situations are just going to get worse. It's really so sad for so many people right now of all the horror that has befallen upon this planet because of Satan. Not God, but Lucifer, the dark forces.
Elected government in a coup, the junta has been unapologetic in its ruthlessness and silent in the face of international outrage. Fearless local journalists and activists have risked everything to show the world what is happening, while outside access to the country has been blocked. But now the military has granted CNN the first access to visit Myanmar. From the moment we arrive, our movements are tightly controlled.
Gives you a sense of the intense level of security with us. 1, 2, 3, another 3 over there. 6 trucks full of soldiers accompanying our every move.
At township offices across Yangon, alleged victims of the protest movement dutifully await us. They tell us they have been beaten and threatened and humiliated by the violators, a pejorative term the military uses for the pro-democracy protesters. In North Okalapa Township, the local administrator complains that the demonstrators were noisy and broke the law by gathering in groups of more than 5.
So once more, we go back down to the question, who throwed the first punch? Who shot the first round of bullets? Well, we're beyond that now. Kind of like the David Koresh standoff, whenever the first day 2 or 3 ATF agents was shot and killed, and several other people was shot and killed, and it turned into a 51-day standoff. Once the bullets start shooting, then a whole new approach has to be formulated and introduced before you're ever going to either stop this or at least slow it down. It's going to take a lot of diplomacy in people coming together and willing to listen and talk. That's the only way that you're going to be able to handle stuff like this on a reasonable level. If not, it's just going to escalate and get worse and worse and worse and worse. And we must realize that this is all the beginnings of the sorrows that the Bible talks about towards the end time events. We are living in the end time events. And I realize a great deal of people, especially over here in America, has heard that again and again and again and again and again, to the point that, oh, it's kind of like the little boy crying wolf. We've heard that before too. Yeah, but one day the little boy really did cry wolf because there really was a wolf. There really was a need. But they didn't go to the little boy then. Kind of like the 10 virgins that had 10 lamps. 5 of them was wise and 5 of them was foolish. Which leads me to the next question. Are you a wise person or are you a foolish person? Because if you're a foolish person, you're probably going to think there is no help, or you're probably going to think this is God's fault, or you're probably going to think, well, there's never going to get no better, or you're probably going to look at it in a doom and gloom perspective. But then again, there was 5 wise virgins. The 5 wise had oil in their lamps because they had done already pre-selected and prepared themselves for a rainy day. It was the 5 foolish virgins that went to the 5 wise ones and said, let us have some of your oil. And the 5 wise said, no, lest we ourselves will be short if we loan you or give you some of our oil. So you have to make preparation before you're actually involved in a situation. Are you prepared? The 5 wise was prepared. The 5 foolish was not. This is where we are right now in society. You're either wise or you're foolish. You either think that this is just going to mysteriously vanish and go away, or you're looking at it logically and saying, wow, it's getting bad, and it has gotten bad, and it could very well get a lot worse. And it is getting worse on a day-to-day level because we can see the gun violence that's escalating right here in the United States. Whenever they was interviewing that first woman a while ago, she was actually one of the ones that had some of the children, the kindergarten children that got killed. She was one of the mothers to that. And I'm sorry I hit the wrong button and I wiped that out, but there has to be some way of communicating with people that this is not the best answer as far as shooting and killing and massacring one another on the streets.
Are you seriously comparing these infractions to more than 500 people being killed, among them children? Are you saying that these are equal?
Our minders are perturbed by the question, and it goes unanswered. They take us to a shopping center, one of two attacked by arsonists overnight. Like many businesses in Myanmar, they are partially owned by the military. The strong implication from our minders is that the protesters are to blame.
And the thing about it is, it's not the protesters that's to blame. Ordinarily, it's those who are in charge. I don't know if they got politicians over there like they do over here or not, but ordinarily it's the people that's always in charge that didn't look ahead and properly prepare their people, or those that didn't make the right decisions that has allowed for such grief to fall upon to society the way that it has. That's kind of like Mexico. You cannot blame the parents that's bringing their children over here across the Rio Grande, dropping them off and saying, good luck, good luck. You got a better chance on that side of the river than you do on this side of the river. You can't blame the parents that's doing that or the children that's being subjected to that. You got to look directly in the eyes of the leadership over there in Mexico. And it's Mexico that did not render and did not heed to the things that they should have done years and years ago that has allowed for this now to escalate and get worse and worse and worse and worse. And now you got basically chaos that's going on over there in Mexico. If I was a father over there and I had 2 or 3 children, I'd be wanting to get them out of there too. If there was absolutely no future pertaining to all this that has occurred, I would be wanting to put my children somewhere else too, to where maybe they did have a future. And that's what the parents in Mexico are doing. Once more, whose fault is it? Is it the parents' fault? Is it the children's fault? It's the leadership's fault. That's where the fault falls whenever you have something like this occurring, especially on this level. Now, naturally, they're not going to own up and say, oh, it ain't our fault. It ain't our fault. It's the protesters' fault. No, I guarantee you, if those protesters was being adequately fed and taken care of and worked and everything was like it's supposed to be, there would not be an uprising.
It's a similar story at several burned out factories.
This is the third factory that the military wanted to show us. They say it's clear proof that the protesters are violent, that they have been setting fire to businesses like this. But the protesters say they had nothing to do with it at all. And the factory owners who we've spoken to say they simply don't know who's responsible.
Sandra's Chinese-owned garment factory was completely destroyed.
Once more, chaos. Who shot the first bullet? Who swung first at who? Well, we're already beyond that. Now we're in the middle of a crisis. And it's not just over there, but it's all over the world, including the USA, where we're in a crisis right now pertaining to violence and bloodshed. I tried to warn the people in 2005. I was chastised. I was treated like an imbecile over here in America whenever I put on a t-shirt, "A Bloody Road Ahead," going to the 43rd President of the United States. I was treated like that I was mentally incompetent, even though it was God that was showing me that a bloody road was on its way here in the United States and throughout the planet. And God also showed me of other things pertaining to electrical disturbances, pertaining to our grids being bad. solar flares and ice storms and other natural catastrophes that hits. And God's also showed me other things that I was accurate in. So, the only thing that I know to do at this point in time is to continue to keep putting out digital video data, and hopefully one day my material will reach somebody out there that has the ability to understand what I'm talking about and will do something about it other than just drive by and be a rubbernecker. Or want to spy in and see what's going on at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, 38255. There comes a time that people has to wake up. And if they don't wake up, just like I was telling you a while ago, once it reaches that pivotal point, God will destroy you. He'll allow for wars, pestilences, diseases, solar flares, meteor displacencies. He'll allow for these things to come into your existence because you're not paying attention to what he's trying to teach you. And if you're walking around blinded and deaf and dumb, he will get your attention eventually. It may be too late for a lot of you that finally come around, but eventually you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, kind of like that insurance commercial with that stork, like that ostrich that kept hitting that window. The guy said, oh, he'll figure it out. Yeah. The Homo sapien race down here up onto the planet, they're going to figure it out. I just hope that they don't figure it out too late.
Asked we not show her face.
Do you have any sense of what you will do now?
Waiting for the government.
All right, they said something right there that struck a bell with me. She said that she didn't want to see her face. You see, I've had lots of people that wanted me to interview them or allowed for me to interview them, but they didn't want me to show their face. They didn't want me to show their identity. They didn't want me to show them where they lived or who they was. They was allowing for me to interview them and talk to them, but they didn't want to be identified. Why would you have people that was willing to do this if they themselves known of the reason what you're standing up for is a credible, just reason? I've had many people tell me, Dennis, we wish that we could have identified ourselves on that particular interview with you, but because we're like silent witnessers, because of things becoming so unraveled and tipsy-topsy here in America, we're afraid that this persecution that you've been persecuted with for the past 30 plus years is going to wind up falling into our laps. The same way that this woman right here don't want to be fully identified. She knows that if she becomes identified, the next thing you know, they'll be coming at her. Now, if you're looking behind her, I'm pretty sure all these broken glasses right here just didn't happen over a period of time. I'm pretty sure this is from rocks being thrown and bullets being hurled into the atmosphere. And that's just one setting right there that we're looking at that would probably take the place of about 4 or 5 cars right there in the side of a building. So you can only imagine what the rest of the city looks like or what the rest of the country looks like. If you're looking at that much damage in an area that 4 or 5 cars can set in, you realize how badly that the town and the city and the country is reeking right now pertaining to hardship and bloodshed?
Giving some helping. Yeah.
Who is the government right now?
Let's back up. Let's get all this.
The garment factory was completely destroyed. She asked we not show her face.
Do you have any sense of what you will do now?
Waiting for the government giving some helping. Yeah.
Who is the government right now in Myanmar? Sorry, is that a hard question?
I don't know.
Every moment of our visit is carefully choreographed. When protesters begin posting about our movements on social media, the military cuts off Wi-Fi across the country. Still, from the window of our convoy, we catch glimpses of reality.
Some people from the balcony just flashed 3 fingers at me. That's the Hunger Games salute, which has become emblematic of this uprising. I'm speaking very quietly because I don't want our minders to know what they just did, because honestly, it could be a very dangerous situation for them.
We pass a small protest, rejecting Myanmar's return to more than half a century of repressive military rule. Their banner calls for a spring revolution. Our minders won't let us stop. Finally, after days of pushing, we are allowed to visit a public space, an open market. We avoid approaching anyone, mindful of the fact that we are surrounded by security forces. But within minutes, one brave man flashes the 3-finger salute.
I saw that you made a sign. Tell me what you mean by making that sign. No, you just stand back.
Justice. We want justice.
You want justice?
Yes.
Moments later, another man approaches.
Not scared.
Not scared.
Not weapons. We don't have enough weapons. Not scared. But every day, fighting. Every day. Just like that. Just like that.
As word of our presence spreads, we hear an unmistakable sound. Banging pots and pans is a tradition to get rid of evil spirits. But it has become the signature sound of resistance. This young teacher says she ran to talk to us when she heard the noise.
You want democracy?
We want democracy. We don't want military coup.
You know we're surrounded by military. Like this guy.
I'm not afraid at all. If we are afraid, we people around here will not hit the band and the pen.
Like many young people, she sees her future being ripped away.
We don't want to go back to the dark age. We lost our voice, and we had democracy only for 10 years because we don't have weapons, we don't have guns, just only we have voice.
But even words can be punished here. Not wanting the situation to escalate, we decide to leave the market as people honk their horns in support of the protest movement. The junta has grossly underestimated the determination of its people and the growing hatred for the military. In the capital, Naypyidaw, we finally have the opportunity to confront Myanmar's senior military leadership.
I will tell you the reason why we have to crack down. The protests were peaceful from February 1st to the 8th. The reason for the crackdown was because they blocked civil servants. The security forces are giving warnings. Firstly, shouting to break the crowds and then shooting in the air. And the crowds are throwing stones and using slingshots.
Are you seriously comparing stones and slingshots to assault rifles? The military is using weapons against its own people that really only belong on the battlefield.
The main thing is, they are not only using stones and slingshots. We have evidence they use gasoline and Molotov cocktails. You have to add those too. For the security forces, they use crackdown weapons for riots. There will be deaths when they are cracking down the riots, but we are not shooting without discipline, with the rifles we use for the front lines.
So this is CCTV footage of 17-year-old Kwame Law going past a police convoy. You can see the police shoot him on the spot. His autopsy later said that he suffered brain injury as a result of a cycling accident, which I think we can all see that's not a cycling accident. How do you explain this?
If that kind of thing has occurred, we will have investigations for it. We will investigate it if it's true or not. There may be some videos which look suspicious, but for our forces, we don't have any intention to shoot at innocent people.
So 14-year-old Tuntun Ong, who was killed by your forces. What do you say to his mother? You say that he was a violent protester? Or what would you say to the father of 13-year-old Tun Mat Win, also shot dead by your forces?
We have heard about the deaths of the children too. There is no reason we will shoot children. This is only the terrorists that are trying to make us look bad.
But the lies are paper thin. According to the UN, as of March 31st, at least 44 children have been killed. Back in Yangon, our miners take us to another market in a military area, keen to show they have popular support. But the ploy backfires.
I understand. The man just told me we want democracy as he walked past, but he was too scared to stop and talk.
Others are more bold.
Save your country.
These people are not activists. They are ordinary citizens, and they live in fear of the military.
You have goosebumps. You're like shivering.
They are not human.
Yeah. They're not human.
They are desperate for the outside world to know their pain. One girl approaches us shaking.
I feel like you're very nervous. Are you okay?
Yeah. We are not sick anymore. And even the night, their shoulders and shoot the children.
I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't want you to get arrested, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
She knows her bravery will certainly be punished. But this is a resistance movement built on small acts of great courage. And Jake, I have to tell you that that woman was arrested just after she ran away from us, along with 7 other people who were arrested. Their only crime was talking to CNN, expressing their fears, expressing their hopes for a better future. Thankfully, they were all released after a couple of days, all 8 of them. But really, this is just an illustration, Jake, of how threatened the military is by this popular movement. The military does not have the support of its people, and also an illustration of how extraordinarily brave these men and women are, risking their own security to make the voices of the people heard, Jake.
Their courage is just unbelievable. And Clarissa, Myanmar's special envoy to the United Nations has called for tougher sanctions. What impact would that have?
Well, there are already sanctions levied against the junta by the US, the UK, and the European Union. But the reality is sanctions don't give the kind of leverage that is really needed now to have a meaningful impact. And so far, we just haven't seen that meaningful, united response from the international community, singing from the same song sheet, demanding an end to this military rule. And that's exactly why you saw those people take those risks and come and talk to us, even though we were standing there saying, listen, we are surrounded by security, be careful. That's the desperation of a people who don't have any other options and who are desperate to have the world pay attention to what is happening in Myanmar, Jake.
Well,
whenever it reaches the level that death is more appealing than life, then you're going to have this type of environment where people will step out in full courageousness towards wanting people to know their story. They're wanting to be heard. Diplomacy is the answer to any type of problem. And the fact of the matter is, they could have used rubber bullets, they could have used water cannons, but they chose not to. This government chose not to. So this government should be checkpoint by all the other civilized governments to say that what they're doing is, it goes beyond wrong. It's horrifying. You see, whenever you look at pictures like this, it makes you appreciate the fact that in America, you have the right to speak out. Kind of like me. I'm speaking out right now through putting out all this material. even though I'm not getting no positive response towards people coming and sympathizing and helping and being supporters, I still don't have an onslaught of military or cops out here every day towards trying to stifle me or shut me up. I guarantee you, if I was in another country right now, that's exactly what they would be doing to me. They would have probably done already put a bullet in me. Does it take courageousness to even stand up in America? Absolutely. It takes a great deal of courageousness to stand up in America. Even if you're doing it for the right reasons, it still takes a great deal of courage, because even though you're doing it for the right reasons, there's people out there that's been touched in the head, and they'll come after you even though you're doing it for the betterment or the good of the people. Yes, they're that messed up. Just like that general or lieutenant or commander or whoever that she was talking to a while ago, he was trying to sympathize in his own military actions towards everything that they had done was justifiable, and that the people brought this on. The people don't bring this on. If things is being handled the way that they're supposed to be handled, you'll not have an uprising like this. I still go back to the 1980s, during the Bush and the Reagan administration, whenever 9 tapes from the Windmill Ministries first was delivered to the White House. This was prior to me telling them in 1983 about the Antichrist. I still blame our government for allowing for situations like this in other countries to escalate and get out of hand, simply because our government tried to stop biblical Bible prophecy from coming true. They didn't want it to come true. They wanted to lame and destroy me. What an easier way to destroy the ministry than destroy the founder of the ministry. This is so sad. Looking at what we're looking at right here goes beyond just a military crackdown or a humanitarian crisis. This is an all out and out war, a civil war, that the people are going to have to rise up and overpower the evildoers, even though the evildoers has bigger guns and more powerful guns. I hate to look at it that way, but if the military is using this type of action in defending their wrong, they need to be put down. Their military needs to be put down. That is bringing this type of onslaught upon to their own people. Now, I don't know what military would do that. I don't know if it would be a neighboring country. I don't know if it would be the United States. But the bottom line is this: people's lives are suffering. They're dying. And if this is going on, can you only imagine what's going on pertaining to molestations, rapes, people stealing from each other, just total anarchy, total chaos that's going on right now in that type of environment. It's really sad. It is super, super sad.
Thank you for helping to bring attention to their plight, and we wish that our world leaders were as brave as these common folks, risking everything just to hold up their 3 fingers and say, we want democracy. Maybe our world leaders can get some courage from these people. Clarissa Ward, another incredible report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for today in regards to getting my message out to my viewers. Once more, I can't say they are my supporters. The only thing that I can say as of right now, that they're viewers. Because if they were true supporters, I guarantee you they would have found some way or another to connecting to the Windmill Ministries. Some way or another, they would have found a way. Even though some of them may be frightened, even though some of them may be scared, even though some of them don't want to be identified, you got another group of people out there that will stand up for the right cause. Similar to myself. Stand up for the right cause. Let your voice be heard. Don't let them dog you completely down. As Ronald Reagan said, I'd rather go down fighting than to have to be submissive to this type of tyranny. And that's probably the reason why that this woman, this commentator to your right, this reporter, that's probably the reason why that she got so many interviews from so many people, was because they had reached a level in their own personal lives that they'd rather be dead than to live through what they're living through. Good luck to all of us. As the founder of the Windmill Ministries always ends his message by saying, Shalom, and good luck to each and every one of us. Thanks for listening. God bless, and God bless America. See ya. Bye.